Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about all of the books that I read in December. December was a much better reading month for me than the last couple of months. I read a total of 12 books, with 7 of them being physical copies of books, 4 ebooks, and I only finished 1 audiobook. And then this time I also remembered to bring over this journal, and this is where I write about all of the books that I have read. I started this in the beginning of August, and I absolutely love flipping through so far and just my thoughts on the book, any feelings I was feeling during it. They're not really reviews, they're just like journals of my thoughts. So I thought I'd bring this over to help remind me, because December was a very busy month as well. I'm going to start with my audiobooks, my 1 audiobook and my 4 ebooks, and then I will go through my stack of physical books as well. So the only audiobook that I finished in the month of December was Drums of Autumn, which is the 4th book, I believe, in the Outlander series. I'm currently waiting for the 5th one, the hold for the 5th audiobook at my library. So when I get that, I will continue with that series. And then the next audiobook that I was working on, I wasn't commuting to work. We had 12 days off from my job, and then I just really didn't listen to audiobook, and then I finished it on the 2nd or 3rd of January. So the audiobook I was listening to after Drums of Autumn, I finished in early January, so you will hear about that. So that's my 1 audiobook, and then I also had 4 ebooks. I finally finished Ruthless Vows, which is the 2nd book in Divine Rivals. This book took me so long to get through. I wasn't really invested in the characters. I didn't really care about them. So I think that's why it was hard for me to choose to pick that up over other books. But once I got to my winter break, I decided I needed to sit down and finish that book, because there was another ebook that I really wanted to read that I already had borrowed from Kindle Unlimited, and so I told myself I couldn't start the book that I really wanted to read until I finished Ruthless Vows and got that series duology checked off. It was average, middle of the road for me. I didn't love it as much as I've seen other people love that series. It just wasn't for me. The next ebook that I finished was XOXO, and this one I had downloaded it from KU to fulfill my alphabet reading challenge. So I downloaded it, and I ended up having a really fun time with this book. It's a young adult book with a Korean American main character, but it's centered around K-pop idols, or I think they're called idols. Yeah, idols. And her accidentally falling in love with one. And it was just a really fun, enjoyable time, and I just had a great time reading it. So I am gonna read the next book in that series. I think it's interconnected standalones, but it just had so much fun with it that I want to continue, and I really enjoyed that author's writing. The next ebook that I finished was Variation. This is the book that I really wanted to start, but told myself I couldn't until I had finished Ruthless Vows. It's by Rebecca Yarros, and so far everything I have read by her, especially her romance, I absolutely love. I sat down and read this book in one day, in practically one sitting. It was so good. It is about a ballerina, and then all of her love stories that I've read so far have a military connection. And so the male lead was a rescue diver, and it was just such a great story. I love the twists that she throws into her stories. I just really enjoy her writing, and this is an author that I want to complete her backlist, because so far she has not done me wrong. Plus, this was a new release that came out, I believe, in October, so I was really excited to read it, and I'm so glad I finally got to that book. And then the last ebook that I read was the last letter that I needed to fulfill my alphabet challenge, which was Q, because I also happen to need V, but I naturally read a book that started with V. So I read The Quest, which is a children's book, and I'm gonna keep this really brief. I feel like this book was trying to be Magic Treehouse-esque, and it was just not done well. So I would not recommend this book. I wouldn't recommend anything by this author. And as a person who works with children, especially for this targeted age, so I read a lot of literature and books targeted at this age group, I would not recommend. It was confusing. It was very redundant. There's a lot of repeating. I just wouldn't recommend reading it. So that is all of my audiobooks and ebooks. Now on to my physical books. I'm going to go through this in order that I finished these physical books. So the first one that I finished was Station 11. I started this at the end of November. It was on my November TBR, and then I finished it up early on in December. This was a reread for me. I really enjoy this book. I enjoy this author's writing, and I definitely need to get to the rest of her backlist as well. The next book that I read was Flipped. This one was one I picked up for free a year and a half ago, and I don't know why I picked this up, but this is one that has been decluttered. It's in my basket. I have a whole stack of little books I need to bring to little free libraries, but because I got this one for free, I'm going to pass it on. I really hated the beginning of this book. Like the first third of this book, I hated. I thought it was poorly written. I thought it was, the storyline was so cringy. But then like once I hit that 1/3 mark, after that I actually enjoyed the storyline. So if I was a person who DNF'd books, I would have never finished this because the beginning was so poor, but it does get better as you read it. The next book that I read, or physical book that I finished, was Spectacular. I sat down and read this in one evening. It's a novella in the Caraval world. It has these really beautiful pictures. I enjoyed reading this and just stepping back into the world. It's not something that I like. I don't like love the series, but I enjoy it enough, and I'm glad that I picked it up to go with my Caraval books. I do wish I had it in paperback, so we'll see if and when it comes out in paperback, if I ever get it. But this was also a like little Christmas or holiday novella. The next book that I finished was The Zookeeper's Wife. This is one that I picked up out of my grandma's basement in 2020. She had a box of books that were just sitting there. This is a non-fiction book, I believe, or like very heavily non-fiction. And from the title, The Zookeeper's Wife, you would think the story would be about the actual zookeeper's wife, but this, like the story and the snippets of history followed a lot of people surrounding this zoo in Poland, and it just really wasn't what I wanted out of this book. So I pushed my way through this, tried to read it kind of quickly to just be done with it, but this is also getting decluttered. The next book that I read, and this one I also read in like 2 days. I did a lot of reading over my winter break. My goal was to read 6 books. I ended up reading 8. So most of this reading got done at the end of the month. But my next book was The First to Die at the End. This is the prequel to They Both Die at the End. And I really enjoyed this because it built the world and like the origin of Deathcast. And I still am left with like quite a few questions about the Deathcast, but it's also a very heartwarming story, and like I actually like teared up during part of it, and I really enjoyed this. So I'm also looking forward to, I believe there's another book in this world, and I think it's called No One Dies at the End. I would have to look, but I definitely would pick up another book from this world by this author. The next book that I read was The Lightning Thief. This is a series that I never read as a young adult or middle schooler, and I kind of wanted to pick it up and see what the hype was. This is also another book that I got for free, so I'm going to pass it on to a little free library, but I did check out the next book in ebook form from my library to read, and I could see myself, maybe if I enjoy this series enough, buying myself a nice matching set of this series. And then the last physical book I don't have with me because I actually just borrowed it to my mom, but I will put a picture up here. It is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. This is a book by Gabrielle Zevin, and I have loved every book so far that I've read by her. I have read Elsewhere, which is a young adult book which deals with death, and I really enjoyed that. I also read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Absolutely loved that book. And then I read The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry in a single day. It is about this man who owns and lives in this bookstore, and kind of the story of his life after his wife dies. So I enjoyed following his story, and just like every other Gabrielle Zevin book, there is heartbreak, there is real deep feelings, and I want to look and see what else she has written and read more of her books because I've enjoyed them so much. So that is everything that I read in December. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.